Picture this. You walk into a room and instantly know something's wrong, even though everyone's smiling. Your friend calls you crying, and before they say a word, you already know exactly what happened. You meet someone new and get this weird gut feeling about them, only to find out weeks later you were spot on. Sound familiar? What if I told you that these aren't just lucky guesses or coincidences? What if these weird moments are actually signs of a rare form of intelligence that only 1 to 3% of people possess? If you've ever been called too sensitive, overthinking everything, or just plain weird for seeing things others miss, then you might be part of this incredibly rare group. Today, we're uncovering the secret behind the INFJ mind, those mysterious individuals who seem to have a sixth sense for life itself. Stick around because what you're about to discover might just explain why you've always felt different, and why that's actually your greatest strength. 1. They're master pattern detectives. Here's something that'll blow your mind. INFJs don't just see patterns, they practically live and breathe them. While most people look at information as separate, disconnected pieces, INFJs automatically start connecting dots that others can't even see exist. Think about it like this. Imagine you're looking at a massive jigsaw puzzle, but instead of having the box cover to guide you, you're working blind. Most people would focus on individual pieces, trying to match colors and shapes. But an INFJ? They'd step back and somehow sense the bigger picture before they've even placed 10 pieces together. This pattern recognition isn't just limited to puzzles or games. INFJs apply this skill to human behavior, social dynamics, and even complex problems at work. They'll notice that every time Sarah from accounting gets that particular look on her face, there's usually drama brewing in the office within 24 hours. Or they'll predict that a certain business strategy won't work because they've seen similar patterns fail before, even in completely different industries. What makes this even weirder is that INFJs often can't explain how they know these patterns exist. They just feel them. It's like having a sixth sense for the invisible threads that connect everything in our world. This ability makes them incredibly valuable in strategic planning, relationship counseling, and any field that requires understanding complex systems. The really cool part? This pattern recognition gets stronger with age and experience. The more data an INFJ collects throughout their life, the more accurate their pattern detection becomes. It's like they're building an internal database of human behavior and life experiences that they can reference instantly. 2. Their intuition works like a supercomputer. Now, let's talk about something that sounds almost too good to be true, the INFJ's intuitive abilities. We're not talking about lucky guesses or random hunches here. INFJ intuition operates more like a sophisticated computer program that's constantly running background calculations. Here's how it works. While you're consciously focusing on whatever's in front of you, an INFJ's mind is simultaneously processing tons of subtle information you're not even aware of. They're picking up on micro-expressions, voice tone changes, body language shifts, and environmental cues that most people's brains just filter out as noise. But here's where it gets really interesting. They don't consciously analyze all this information. Instead, their subconscious mind processes everything and delivers the conclusion as a gut feeling or sudden insight. It's like having a team of expert analysts working 24/7 in the background of their mind, then presenting their findings as a simple, "something's not right here," or "this person is hiding something." This is why INFJs often seem psychic to others. They'll walk into a room and immediately sense tension between two people who haven't even spoken to each other yet. Or they'll meet someone new and instantly feel uneasy, only to find out weeks later that person had ulterior motives. The really wild part is that INFJ intuition becomes more accurate when they learn to trust it. The more they listen to these gut feelings instead of dismissing them as imagination, the more finely tuned this internal radar becomes. It's like strengthening a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. 3. They process information in multiple dimensions. Most people think in a pretty straightforward way. They consider the facts in front of them, maybe think about a few possible outcomes, and make a decision. INFJs? They're playing 4D chess while everyone else is playing checkers. When an INFJ encounters new information, their brain doesn't just file it away in a neat little category. Instead, they automatically start exploring how this information connects to everything else they know. They're asking questions like, how does this relate to what happened 5 years ago? What are the long-term implications? How will this affect different types of people? What are the ethical considerations? This multidimensional thinking is why INFJs often take longer to make decisions than other personality types. They're not being indecisive, they're being thorough. While you're looking at a situation from 1 or 2 angles, they're examining it from 10 different perspectives, considering consequences you haven't even thought of yet. This trait makes INFJs incredible advisors and counselors. When someone brings them a problem, they don't just offer quick fixes. They help people understand the deeper issues at play, the various factors contributing to the situation, and potential solutions that address root causes rather than just symptoms. But here's the catch: this multidimensional thinking can sometimes make INFJs seem scattered or unfocused to others. When they're trying to explain their thought process, they might jump between seemingly unrelated topics, leaving their listeners confused. What others don't realize is that in the INFJ's mind, everything is connected. 4. They're emotional intelligence savants. Let's dive into something that makes INFJs absolutely brilliant in ways that traditional intelligence tests completely miss: their off-the-charts emotional intelligence. We're talking about people who can read emotional undercurrents like others read newspaper headlines. An INFJ doesn't just notice when someone's upset, they can sense the specific type of upset. They'll pick up on the difference between frustrated because of work upset versus heartbroken because of relationship upset versus anxious about the future upset. And they'll adjust their response accordingly, often without consciously thinking about it. This emotional radar extends beyond just reading others. INFJs are incredibly self-aware when it comes to their own emotional landscape. They understand their triggers, recognize their patterns, and can usually predict how they'll react to certain situations. This self-knowledge gives them a huge advantage in managing stress, making decisions, and maintaining relationships. But here's where it gets really interesting: INFJs can use their emotional intelligence strategically. They understand that emotions drive most human decisions, so they can predict behavior by understanding emotional motivations. They know that the colleague who's been extra critical lately is probably dealing with insecurity, or that the friend who's been distant might be going through something they haven't shared yet. This emotional savvy makes INFJs natural mediators and peacekeepers. They can see all sides of a conflict because they understand the emotions driving each person's position. They're the ones who can find common ground in seemingly impossible situations because they address the feelings behind the facts. 5. They think in stories and metaphors. Here's something that might sound weird but is actually genius. INFJs naturally think in stories and metaphors. While most people process information in facts and figures, INFJs automatically translate everything into narrative form. This isn't just creative thinking, it's a sophisticated form of intelligence that helps them understand complex ideas and communicate them effectively. When an INFJ encounters a new concept, they don't just memorize the definition. They create a story around it, complete with characters, plot, and meaning. This narrative thinking helps them remember information better and see connections that others miss. It's like having a built-in filing system that organizes information by meaning rather than category. This storytelling intelligence makes INFJs incredibly effective communicators. They can take complicated ideas and present them in ways that are easy to understand and remember. They're the ones who can explain quantum physics using the metaphor of a cosmic dance, or help someone understand their relationship problems by comparing them to a garden that needs different types of care. But it goes deeper than just communication. INFJs use stories to understand their own lives and experiences. They're constantly creating meaning from their experiences, weaving individual events into larger narratives that help them make sense of their journey. This is why INFJs often have such clear senses of purpose. They see their lives as stories with themes, lessons, and meaning. This narrative intelligence also helps INFJs predict outcomes. They understand that life follows certain story patterns, and they can often sense when someone's personal story is heading toward a particular type of ending. It's like having read so many books that you can predict plot twists before they happen. 6. They're masters of the long game. While most people focus on immediate results and short-term gains, INFJs are playing an entirely different game. They're natural long-term strategists who think in decades rather than days. This ability to see the big picture over extended time periods is a form of intelligence that's incredibly rare and valuable. An INFJ doesn't just make decisions based on what feels good right now. They consider how this choice will affect them 5, 10, or even 20 years down the road. They're the ones who start saving for retirement in their 20s, choose careers based on long-term satisfaction rather than immediate salary, and invest in relationships that might not pay off for years. This long-term thinking extends to their understanding of personal growth. INFJs see self-improvement as a lifelong journey rather than a destination. They're constantly planting seeds for future versions of themselves, developing skills and knowledge that might not be useful today but will be invaluable later. What makes this even more impressive is that INFJs can hold multiple long-term visions simultaneously. They're not just focused on one future outcome, they're considering various scenarios and preparing for different possibilities. It's like they're master chess players who can see 20 moves ahead while keeping track of multiple potential games. This strategic thinking makes INFJs excellent leaders, though they might not always look like traditional leaders. They're the ones quietly building foundations, creating systems, and developing people in ways that create lasting positive change. They understand that real transformation takes time, and they're willing to invest that time even when others can't see the immediate benefits. 7. They're contradiction integrators. Here's something that might sound impossible. INFJs are brilliant at holding contradictory ideas in their minds without feeling the need to resolve them immediately. While most people get uncomfortable with contradictions and rush to pick a side, INFJs can sit with opposing viewpoints and find wisdom in the tension between them. This ability to embrace contradiction makes INFJs incredibly nuanced thinkers. They understand that most situations aren't black and white, and they're comfortable operating in the gray areas where others feel lost. They can see how two seemingly opposite things can both be true, depending on context, perspective, or timing. For example, an INFJ might simultaneously believe that people are fundamentally good while also recognizing that humans are capable of terrible things. Instead of seeing this as a logical problem to solve, they understand that human nature is complex enough to contain both possibilities. This nuanced understanding helps them navigate relationships and situations with wisdom that comes from accepting complexity rather than oversimplifying it. This contradiction integration extends to their personal lives as well. INFJs are often walking contradictions themselves. They're social introverts who need alone time to recharge, idealistic realists who dream big while staying grounded, and sensitive tough cookies who can handle emotional intensity that would overwhelm others. This ability to integrate contradictions makes INFJs excellent counselors, mediators, and advisors. They don't try to force simple solutions onto complex problems. Instead, they help others learn to live with ambiguity and find peace in the midst of conflicting demands. 8. They have selective hyperfocus abilities. While most people struggle with consistent focus, INFJs have developed something even better: the ability to hyperfocus on things that truly matter to them. When an INFJ finds something that aligns with their values and interests, they can concentrate with an intensity that borders on the supernatural. This isn't just regular focus we're talking about. When an INFJ goes into hyperfocus mode, they can work for hours without breaks, absorb massive amounts of information, and make connections that would take others days to discover. Time seems to stop, distractions disappear, and their minds operate at peak capacity. The key word here is selective. INFJs can't force this hyperfocus on just anything. It has to be something that genuinely engages them on a deep level. This is why they might struggle to focus on boring tasks but can spend 12 hours straight researching a topic they're passionate about without feeling tired. This selective hyperfocus makes INFJs incredibly productive when they're working on the right things. They're the ones who can master complex skills in record time, dive deep into subjects others find overwhelming, and produce high-quality work that reflects hours of intense concentration. The downside? INFJs often struggle in environments that require them to focus on things they don't find meaningful. Traditional educational and work settings that demand equal attention to all tasks can be challenging for INFJs who naturally want to pour their energy into what matters most to them. 9. They're systems thinkers extraordinaire. INFJs don't just see individual problems, they see the systems that create those problems. This systems thinking is a sophisticated form of intelligence that allows them to understand how different parts of complex situations interact and influence each other. When most people encounter a problem, they focus on the immediate issue and look for direct solutions. An INFJ automatically zooms out to see the bigger system at play. They're asking questions like, what conditions led to this problem? How do the different elements interact? What would happen if we changed this one component? How does this system connect to other systems? This systems thinking makes INFJs natural problem solvers, but not in the way you might expect. Instead of offering quick fixes, they focus on addressing root causes and creating sustainable solutions. They understand that fixing symptoms without addressing underlying systems usually leads to recurring problems. In relationships, this means INFJs don't just focus on resolving individual conflicts, they look at communication patterns, underlying needs, and relationship dynamics. In their careers, they don't just complete tasks. They consider how their work fits into larger organizational goals and how different departments and processes interact. This systems perspective can sometimes make INFJs seem like they're overcomplicating things. When others want simple answers, INFJs are explaining interconnected factors and long-term implications. But this complexity is exactly what makes their solutions more effective in the long run. 10. They're meaning-making machines. The final weird trait that makes INFJs incredibly smart is their compulsive need to find meaning in everything. While others might be content with surface-level understanding, INFJs are constantly digging deeper, asking why and what does this mean about everything they encounter. This isn't just philosophical navel-gazing. It's a sophisticated form of intelligence that helps INFJs understand the world at a profound level. They don't just observe what happens. They constantly seek to understand the significance, purpose, and deeper implications of events and experiences. When an INFJ reads a book, they're not just following the plot, they're analyzing themes, considering the author's intentions, and connecting the story to larger human truths. When they have a conversation, they're not just exchanging information, they're exploring ideas, understanding perspectives, and finding common ground on fundamental values. This meaning-making ability helps INFJs develop a rich, coherent worldview that guides their decisions and actions. They don't just react to life as it happens, they actively construct meaning from their experiences and use that meaning to navigate future challenges. This trait also makes INFJs incredibly inspiring to others. People are drawn to individuals who can help them make sense of their experiences and find purpose in their struggles. INFJs naturally serve this role, helping others discover meaning in their own lives through their questions, insights, and perspectives. The integration of all traits. What makes INFJs truly brilliant isn't just having these individual traits. It's how all these weird characteristics work together to create a unique form of intelligence that's greater than the sum of its parts. Their pattern recognition feeds their intuition, which enhances their emotional intelligence, which improves their systems thinking, which deepens their meaning-making abilities. Each trait amplifies the others, creating a sophisticated cognitive system that can tackle complex problems from multiple angles simultaneously. This integration is why INFJs often seem to understand things that others miss. They're not just using one form of intelligence, they're using all of these traits in concert, creating insights that come from the intersection of pattern recognition, intuition, emotional understanding, long-term thinking, and meaning-making. Why these traits are often misunderstood. Unfortunately, many of these traits are misunderstood or undervalued in our society. Traditional measures of intelligence focus on logical reasoning, memory, and processing speed, all important abilities, but not the only forms of intelligence that matter. INFJ intelligence is often more subtle and harder to measure. It shows up in their ability to predict outcomes, understand people, solve complex problems, and create meaningful solutions. But because these abilities don't fit neatly into standard categories, they're often overlooked or dismissed as soft skills. This misunderstanding can lead INFJs to doubt their own intelligence, especially if they struggled in traditional academic settings or don't excel at conventional measures of smarts. But the truth is, their weird traits represent sophisticated forms of intelligence that are incredibly valuable in our complex, interconnected world. How INFJs can leverage these traits? Understanding these traits isn't just interesting, it's empowering. When INFJs recognize and embrace their unique forms of intelligence, they can leverage these abilities more effectively in their personal and professional lives. The key is learning to trust these abilities rather than dismissing them as weird or impractical. Your pattern recognition isn't overthinking, it's valuable insight. Your emotional intelligence isn't being too sensitive, it's a sophisticated understanding of human nature. Your need for meaning isn't being unrealistic, it's a drive toward purpose and significance. INFJs can also learn to communicate their insights more effectively by understanding how others think. Since most people don't naturally think in patterns, systems, and long-term implications, INFJs need to translate their insights into language that others can understand and appreciate. The value INFJs bring to the world. In our increasingly complex world, we need people who can see patterns, understand systems, think long-term, and integrate contradictions. We need individuals who can read emotional undercurrents, find meaning in chaos, and solve problems that don't have simple solutions. INFJs bring exactly these abilities to their families, workplaces, and communities. They're the ones who see opportunities others miss, prevent problems before they occur, and help people understand themselves and their relationships more deeply. Their weird traits aren't just personal quirks, they're valuable forms of intelligence that contribute to human understanding and progress. Every time an INFJ uses their pattern recognition to predict market trends, their emotional intelligence to resolve conflicts, or their systems thinking to solve complex problems, they're making the world a little bit smarter and more connected. Conclusion. So there you have it, 10 weird traits that make INFJs not just different, but genuinely brilliant in ways that traditional intelligence tests can't measure. From their pattern detective abilities to their meaning-making machines, these characteristics represent sophisticated forms of intelligence that are perfectly suited to our complex modern world. If you're an INFJ, I hope this helps you recognize and appreciate your unique cognitive gifts. Your weird traits aren't flaws to overcome, they're superpowers to embrace and develop. The world needs your ability to see patterns, understand people, think in systems, and find meaning in chaos. And if you're not an INFJ but know someone who is, maybe this helps you understand why they seem to know things they shouldn't know, why they ask so many deep questions, and why they sometimes seem to be operating on a different wavelength than everyone else. They're not weird, they're just using forms of intelligence that most people don't naturally possess. The next time someone calls these traits weird, remember that weird isn't the opposite of smart. Sometimes it's exactly what smart looks like when it doesn't fit into conventional categories. INFJs prove that intelligence comes in many forms, and the most valuable insights often come from the minds that think differently than everyone else. Thanks for joining me on this deep dive into the brilliant weirdness of the INFJ mind. If this resonated with you, make sure to like this video and subscribe for more content about personality types and the fascinating ways our minds work. And remember, being weird isn't just okay. It's often exactly what makes you brilliant.